Hey there, and Happy New Year, my friends. This is Bill MacDonald, the writing doctor here, and I want to say that I hope that each and every one of you had a healthy, happy, hearty Christmas and New Year's vacation with your family and your friends. I also hope and pray that you're ready for a second go around, the second semester, where we put the pedal to the metal. Before I share today's video with you on revising. Revising is revisioning something, seeing it a different way. So when you're doing revising, you're changing the content. When you're doing editing, you're changing the conventions, the grammar. So make sure that you understand the difference. Now, what I'm noticing in a lot of classrooms, virtual classrooms, and sometimes in-person classrooms is there's so many worksheets and PowerPoints and thick binders that are just being read through, and PowerPoint after PowerPoint and slide after slide. My last year of teaching, I was sent to a training that lasted 5 days, and the presenters read to us all 5 of those days from PowerPoints and from the binders. Not much came from their heart or their heads. It was all just a bunch of worksheets and PowerPoints that were powerless to connect with me. And I feel like several others in the audience felt the same way. And I promise that although I would teach the content that they were talking about, I would never teach a group of students or teachers in a way where they're always getting things the same way every single day, where there's nothing fresh. It would be like eating the same thing over and over, eating leftovers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Monday through Friday, since we hopefully don't have school on Saturdays or Sundays. Teachers have homework and lots of time that they're having to spend making lots of slides and worksheets. So, what's the biggest difference between a worksheet and what a friend of mine, a co consultant, calls a sheet that works? Well, if your kids are hands on, that means they're kinesthetic. If they're visual, then great. You can show them a worksheet all day long, but if you're not making things auditory, where they're hearing and actually listening, or kinesthetic, where they get to touch and do things or make things, there's going to be an emotional, mental, and academic disconnect that's going to take place after a while. The students are not going to want to be there. The teachers are not going to want to be there if you're doing the same thing. So I'm going to dedicate this semester to showing you different ways, exciting ways to bring life back into your teaching, to show you creative methods that are going to be easy ways to teach very difficult concepts. So, the one that I'm going to work on today is a revising question that your students are going to get starting next year from 3rd through 8th grade in ELAR. Everyone's going to be having to learn ER, not emergency room, but there will be an editing and revising emergency room in those grade levels from now on, because we're all going to get tested. And so let's start this year practicing what's going to show up in the field test items for 3rd through 8th grade reading tests. There'll be, in most cases, 6 questions. I don't know how much they're going to change that, but from my understanding that uh, it's based on the latest data, they're going to be including one passage that's editing and or revising. Either there'll be an editing passage and a revising passage, or just an editing passage, or just revising, because remember that editing is fixing content, and editing is fixing conventions, the grammar, and revising is fixing the content, where you add, remove, replace, and move things around. Editing is cups, capitalization, usage, subject verb agreement, P punctuation, and S spelling. So without further ado, let me share with you from my binder a page that would be a worksheet that we need to turn into a sheet that works. I clicked on share screen for those of you that have I forgot the program. For those of you that have Zoom, pardon me, then I click advanced, and I'll click content from a second camera. And that way I stay in the picture, and the worksheet is there. So they can look at me. If some kids need to be able to see the teacher, I can enlarge myself a little bit. Sometimes that works on your end, sometimes it doesn't. So what I have here, this is page 232 of the digital and hard copy of the binder. And these are all the questions that your students could get asked on a revising, or what we might say revising. One of the revising questions could be on this list. These are what we call the keyword strands, where you're improving the content, which is the development or the organization of the IBC, the introduction, the body, or the conclusion of a passage by arm, adding, removing, replacing, moving words, phrases, transitions, or a sentence if it's a passage. So we're only going to work on one that I think is one of the hardest ones. What is the best way to combine sentences blank and blank? And so one of the ways that you can think about that, if we're saying that sentence 16 is the sentence, I'm going to use this hand as sentence 16, and sentence 17 is the next one. I'm going to use this hand. And so what they're saying is, what is the best way to combine them? And so my kids practice saying, come together right now, because you're going to combine them. And so what you're going to notice is several reasons why you might combine sentences. Okay, we're going to look at repetition, where there's a sentence that's short, maybe there's a double subject or a double predicate, or there might be one that might make the most sense. And the one we're going to save for last is when we're joining two independent clauses with a coordinating conjunction, a comma with a fanboys, which is what most of you are familiar with. So you could sit there and do dozens and dozens of questions where they combine sentences, or you can try this and make life a little more interesting. So I got a sheet of paper, I folded it in half. I'm using my 11 by 17 tag board. Since most of you probably don't have access to that, you can use 8.5 by 14. That's I believe the legal size. They sell that in most stores. So when you fold it in half, you'll also fold it in half left and right. So it'll be divided into 4 equal sections. We're going to call it a revising activity. What is the best way to combine sentences blank and blank? So I'm going to make an opening bracket around sentence blank. And in the case of our example there, it was sentence 16 and sentence 17. So you would make a bracket right here in the question around uh, those words. And then you would go to the passage and you would make an opening bracket before sentence 16 and a closing bracket after sentence 17. And they would sing that song, "Come together right now," and you would have one sentence. So what's our first example? And I'm going to zoom in because I used 3 different colors for a reason. And in case you can't see them, these heads are going to be the first word of the sentence, and they're going to be green for go. These bodies, these rectangular bodies, are yellow for slow. We're going to look through every word. We're going to read it softly and loudly. And these red feet are punctuation marks of some kind. And so one way to join 2 sentences, "come together right now," is if one or both of them are too short. Okay, so got an example. Never teach something without giving an example, without modeling. So sentence 1 is short. It's only got 4 words. John, this is an example using a person, likes to run. So there's my green circle around John, yellow around the rest of the words, and a red stop sign called a period. Okay. The second sentence is a little bit longer. Nothing wrong with these 2 sentences, but it said, what is the best way to combine them? Well, combine because one of them might be too short or both of them might be too short. So let's look at sentence 2. Capital, he usually enjoys it. What's it? Well, let's look at the sentence before, running early in the morning. Okay, so how do we join them? There's my green to start. So we have 2 different words. That's good. So when you teach your kids, circle all the first words of your whole passage, your whole essay. You're going to find out if you start with the same word too much, you're going to see that word circled in green too many times. Yellow, slow down, read the sentence and listen to how it sounds and how it looks. And then red, the stop sign. So how do we join them without repeating, without having a run-on or a fragment, without changing the content, okay, and still making sense, okay? Capital John usually enjoys running. Let's go there. And if I'm going to pick between like and enjoy, since enjoy is higher vocabulary than like, I'm going to use enjoy. John usually enjoys running early in the morning. I don't have to say anything twice. We know that it is the running, so I don't have to put that in there, period. Let's look at the second way. You might have a compound subject. Compound subject, the subject could be a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. So compound means 2 different subjects that might be doing the same thing. So what I use, sentence 3 and 4 in this case, is 2 districts I'm going to be going to this month to help the teachers. Tomball, we're working with teachers this coming week, and Lubbock will be working with a specific campus and part of Lubbock with the teachers this month, and then we're going to come back next month and work with the students in a setting that's safe, of course. All right, so we have 2 different subjects, a compound subject. Okay, capital Tomball is an awesome school district, period. So there's sentence 3. Capital Lubbock is an awesome school district, period. Since we have 2 different subjects that have the same criteria about them, we gotta play that game, come together. So we would have two of the same. So what we could do is tell the students, why don't you go ahead and use a coordinating conjunction to join them. Let me see if this pen works here. Yes. Okay. So we can say Tomball and Tomball and Lubbock. All right. So let's see what happens when we join them together. Capital Tomball and Capital Lubbock are awesome school districts, period. So two different places that have the same concept. And I might teach you to circle opinion words. My head, a circle, opinions, circle them, because that's just someone's opinion. That those school districts are awesome. Not just because they're bringing me, but because I've been to both of them before and I really enjoyed working with the teachers. And I think the students in both of them as well. I'm not sure on Tomball. All right, let's look at our third way. Let's say we have a compound predicate. Okay, we have one subject, but two different things about the subject. So there's one subject, one head. This in this case, it's a thing. I'm going to use seafood as my thing, and I'm going to tell you two different things about seafood. So we are going to join those two things with a fanboy and. So let's see what sentence 5 says. Capital seafood is my favorite thing to cook, period. Capital seafood is my favorite thing to eat, period. Well, first of all, we don't want the repetition. So when we're reading that, we hear all that repetition. We're going to talk about that in a moment. I'll show you a different way to get rid of it. But because that's called a compound predicate, one thing, but two different things about them. So we would say about them, we would say capital seafood, one subject, is my favorite thing to cook and eat, period. Another one, if there's repetition, if you think of a passage as a wall, each layer of bricks would be like a sentence. And sometimes a sentence can't finish on one layer. If you tell the kids that we have to go to the next layer and we have a few more bricks, a few more words, and then we would stop. And so whenever we have repetition, you're going to notice what I did here. These words that are repeated, I made little red bricks around them so that they can say, oh, I can't be writing the same thing twice. So let's listen carefully. We're going to look and listen, because let me show you, I'm going to put my right hand behind my ear and my left hand out here, because if we say that looking plus listening equals learning, well, then a lot more of that has to take place all the time. So all of us should be looking at the sentences. All of us should be saying the sentences softly or loudly so we can hear and listen, in this case, for the repetition. So here we go. Friendship cannot be replaced or stopped just because of one problem, period. Sentence 8, capital. I forgot to do that the first time. It also cannot be replaced or stopped just because a cooler person comes along, period. I try to choose examples that are relevant to students. A lot of kids stop friendships over silly little things. So because of a problem, because a cool friend comes along. So we have cannot, be, replaced, or, stop, just, because. Since students write that way all the time, this is going to be a great way to practice saying, okay, I can't repeat in my own sentences. And when I can get good at doing that in my essay, E, I'll also get good. Make sure I get a pen that can work so you can see what I'm trying to say here. Boy, all these pens are old. Talk to my brother Steve about getting some more pens. So if I can practice doing it on my essay, then I can probably get good at doing it on a passage, okay? But maybe before we're ready for a passage, we might try it on a paragraph first, okay? So hopefully your kids go to PE where they're reading passages and writing essays and being able to do editing and revising with both of them. So how would we come together right now? Those two sentences without repetition. Well, we're only going to say the bricks. If I remove all those bricks from that first sentence and I remove all those bricks from the second sentence, what's going to be left behind? A big hole on both layers. And so repetition, if you have, let's say, 10 sentences and 5 of them have repetition, then you only have 5 good sentences. And so that's not a good amount of quantity or quality. So let's see what I did, an example of combining them without repetition. Capital friendship cannot be replaced or stopped just because of one problem or if a cooler person comes along, period. My content stayed the same. I just decided to join the sentences, keep the content intact without having a run on or a fragment. And here comes my favorite one of all. When I flip to the opposite side, I want you to see that you can sometimes join two sentences together because they want to know if your students have been taught by you how to do a coordinating conjunction. So what I've done on the top half of the folded sheet of paper is draw a shirt. And since we're on number 9, the shirt's going to be sentence 9, a complete thought. And I flip it over to the lower half. The skirt is going to be a little belt with fanboys, a comma, and then what all the fanboys stand for. Okay, so what you might do is if you make a class set of these shirt and skirt combinations, you could draw the lines, leave the sentence numbers blank so that your students could practice with dry erase or wet erase markers, being able to, or permanent markers as long as you have the right kind of thing to remove it, like nail polish remover or something like that. So let's take a look at sentence 9. All right. Capital, many students are really enjoying being able to have school at home every day, period. That's a complete thought. The students are the subject. What about them? They're enjoying something, being at home when? At home every day. All right. Let's flip it to the bottom and see another complete thought. Capital, it is a lot more work for teachers several days a week, period. Okay, now, why do I have those arrows first of all? The up arrow, green, stands for, oh, if the students are enjoying being able to stay at home, that's positive, so we can draw an up arrow. I don't know if you can hear my fireworks in the background. We're still celebrating New Year's down here in the Rio Grande Valley. There's a red arrow pointing down because a lot more work for the teacher several days a week, unless they're getting paid for those extra hours and days, then that's probably a negative thing. So we would want a fanboy that would be the opposite. And so in this case, the easiest one to think about is a comma. And so if you think of the little belt loop, I have a yellow comma says, let's slow down the sentence, and then join two independent clauses with a comma, and then a fanboy. Okay. And my butt is lower than my belt, and so my comma would come first, and then one of the fanboys. You don't say but comma because your belt comes before your butt, and so your comma would come before all the fanboys. Just kind of a corny way to teach it to kids. So how would you join those two sentences? Come together right now. Capital, many students are really enjoying being able to have school at home every day. Positive, comma. I circled it yellow because we're not stopping the sentence, we're just slowing it down. But there's my my conjunction. It is a lot more work for the teachers several days a week. Now, period. You've got to make sure that if you cover up the butt or the fanboy, we have to make sure, does the first part still have a complete thought? Many students are really enjoying being able to have school at home every day. Yes, that still makes sense, but no period, just a comma. It is a lot more work for the teachers several days a week. Period. That makes sense on its own. So we remove the capital, we remove the period, and we replace them with a comma and a but. Now we've got to decide, well, are we going to use a period, a question mark, or an exclamation, because we can only have one stop sign at the end of every sentence, because every sentence is like a street. It has a bunch of cars on it. And then at the end of the street, hopefully, we have a stop sign. So I hope that you enjoyed that. What I would encourage you to do is, if you liked it, go ahead and tag your reading, writing, editing, revising teacher friends. This is not the way to teach combining sentences, but it's a way. I showed you 5 different ways that you could possibly join sentences without having repetition. If one of them is too short, if you have a compound subject, compound predicate, or if we said making the most sense sometimes, because when we look at that word in the question, let me show it to you real quick. There's something I just want to make sure you understand something. When you see that word best, I underlined it twice because what it sometimes means is that 2 of them sound reasonable out of the 4 usually, and sometimes 3, but only 1 of them is the best. And so whenever it says best, be careful to look at all 4 of them very closely to see which 2 or perhaps 3 of the ones you're going to pick are closest to sounding and looking good, and which one is the best, because I'm going to make an E for eliminate. We need to eliminate 3, whether they're even or odd, and we can only select 1. So God bless you guys. Email me if you like email, and you're seeing this on YouTube, at writing_doctor@yahoo.com. Doctor spelled out, writing, WRTING _underline symbol. Or message me if you have any questions or you need any ideas or strategies. I'm going to dedicate 1 video a day to writing for this semester. I'll even do some on Saturdays and Sundays for you that might be a little shorter, but I want to be able to help you, because I just feel like we're spending too much time doing worksheets and not enough time doing sheets that work. This, I think, your kids would enjoy. Don't forget to tag your teacher friends. Share the post if you'd like. God bless you guys. Have a great rest of your holiday. If you have a few more days left, most of you have to go back on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, or Tuesday, Wednesday. Enjoy whatever time you have left. God bless you guys.